Hey, YouTube. So it's time to do another recap. I think this last week was really interesting in the markets. We had OpEx, or options expiration, and really we saw a ton of volume. I got at least 15 to 20 alerts from VolumeLeaders, and I think we'll have a lot of interesting things to look at. And suffice to say that really the next 1 or 2 weeks are going to be pretty interesting to see whether or not we have continuation to the upside or some moves down. So in options expiration, you have a lot of rotations, rebalancing, things like that. So go ahead and kick it off with SPY. So, obviously one of the most liquid and highly traded names in the market, indices in the market. And here we can see that we just had a top 20 or number 17 ranked trade. And this is looking back over the last 30 days. And so here, this is, I think, interesting, obviously, because of the size. But really, let's go ahead and zoom in to the last 7 days. Now, volume coming in at the lows. Typically, think about buying low, selling high, and institutions, the way that they position. We can kind of see a couple different clusters here. So this first cluster here obviously looks like it might have been a sell, and then now we have another potential period of accumulation or distribution. And this next week I think is really, really important. So with these levels and with these rank trades, I think the main thing to keep in mind is using them as reference points, right? So getting back above that level in the following week or two probably indicates bullish positioning and vice versa. So here I'd say for the SPY, looking at around 544 is that kind of the line in the sand to see, if we start trending back higher, maybe coming back up to fill this gap. Maybe you would wait for, if you want to be conservative, wait to enter longs until after you get above this level and this gap is filled, because this could always be a relief rally to fill the gap and then a move back down. So potentially, taking longs on a daily close above 546, 547, and going from there. So now Apple also, there's a lot of big names that had some really big trades recently. Now we can see this cluster. We actually saw number one, significant size trade, 103 million shares of Apple. So this is obviously going back to 2004. The data set that VolumeLeaders has, this is in number one ranked trade. So again, very, very interesting here. It remains to be seen whether this is someone, buying the dip. And, I think the best thing we can do here is look at this level, 207.50, and see what happens this next week. If we move higher than that, get a couple daily closes above, and as long as we don't move below that 207.50 level or 207, then potentially we can infer that this was a buy. But again, very, very interesting levels here that we have on several names. So if I were setting alerts here, I'd probably set alerts right around this level of 207. Nvidia as well, we also had a number one ranked trade. So again, some of the largest names in the market, Apple and Nvidia, both saw number one ranked trades. This is a 1 year look back. Let's go ahead and zoom in. So here we can see, though, a period of accumulation with a number 2. 5 and 4 potentially sells, right? With the benefit of hindsight, there's a period of consolidation, and then we're moving back up. Number 3, it's hard to really know what that was. Someone, might have been selling on that pullback or, buying for the next leg higher. Number 1, again, we really can't know just yet. We need a little bit more time to kind of let this digest and see where things trend. But again, we have an important level here for Nvidia now. So 126.50, or call it 127. You want to see price move back up, see a couple daily closes above that. Potentially, if you draw a resistance line here, potentially getting above, staying above that. Really, maybe even 130 to 131 is the level you want to look at for potential break of highs, and maybe a move to 150. But I think, here's a bit of a risky area to take any aggressive positioning in either direction. You just kind of need to wait and see where the trend is. There is a decent level of support here at 120. You can see the volume profile as well, this volume block. And yeah, so 120, if it gets below that, I think that is definitely bearish. And there are a couple gaps lower, around 95, as well as here around 112. So, below 120, I'd start to get bearish on this, maybe below 125 or so. and then back above 130 is when I'd start considering longs. So Verve Holdings, this is also in the semi-adjacent space. Again, we can see over the last year, we had a number 1 ranked trade on the move up, number 3, and then we have 5, 4, and 2 all clustered very recently. So let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit closer. Take a look at the last 30 days. And again, Verve and Nvidia are highly correlated given this the sector that they're in. Now, typically, kind of looking at what we have here, number 4, a seventh ranked trade, number 2 and 22, we kind of see this cluster of activity. Just looking over the price action over the last month, kind of building up that support around 90. We can see, again, we have this kind of volume block here where things have been holding. So, potentially a move back up to 95. Get back above 100, and I'd say, this is safe for longs again, and then get back below 87, move below this low. I think, there's probably more downside here, but again, just kind of treating these as ranges of interest and looking for moves higher, sustained moves higher or lower below those levels to kind of take action on. But, same with Nvidia. If you start to see Nvidia moving down below that 127 level, then you can probably infer that that Verve might also start seeing some sell pressure. Palantir, so we had a 15th ranked trade, and then a couple days before that we had a 49th ranked trade. Again, this one's interesting. It's had a decent move up over the last couple weeks from $21 up to 26 and change. And then we have this sell-off. This 49 was probably a sell based on the kind of subsequent price action. 15, again, we can potentially infer, there's support here, big volume profile. So if this can start moving back up and get above 2450 or 25, potentially it could go for another retest of the local highs. But again, this level right here at 2384, maybe call it 24, is probably the level where you want to set alerts and see where this heads over the next week or two. So the next couple tickers are somewhat adjacent, in the tech and data space, and you'll notice that their charts are all quite similar. So here first we have Snowflake, and interesting price structure here, right? Snowflake, the CEO announced that he was leaving, and there was this massive sell, and really just a sustained move down. And now you have this period of consolidation, potentially accumulation. Just looking at this with a number 6 ranked trade on Friday, I think very, very interesting there. Based on this price structure alone, I'm definitely leaning bullish on Snowflake. I think that at the very least, a rally to move back up and potentially retest 150 as resistance. I think that there's good potential here. If you wanted to play it a little bit safer, maybe you wait for a break of the 130 level before you take that long for a test of 150, maybe 145. But this name I think is definitely interesting. You'll also notice that volume has kind of ticked up over the last couple weeks. Obviously, a good part of that was selling. But then to see the sustained volume at the lows is quite interesting and potentially indicative of accumulation. So MongoDB, very similar chart here. MongoDB has not done well over the last couple weeks or last month or two. You can see highly correlated with Snowflake. So Snowflake moves up, Mongo moves up, vice versa. Now Snowflake had a number 6 ranked trade on Friday. We have a number 5 for MongoDB. Again, I think that this is an interesting level. I think, if this can move back up above 230, potentially, 236, then it could possibly move back up to retest 250 or to potentially even 300. Mongo can, it moves pretty significantly in either direction when it does start moving. So I wouldn't rule out a retest of 300 if things on some of these names, the names that have been, laggards or defied the kind of trend that the Magnificent Seven has set, could be interesting positions for kind of a mean reversion trade over the next couple months. GitLab as well, very similar chart here. We can see we actually had a number 3 ranked trade here recently. We have a nice engulfing candle. from last Friday. And, interesting structure here. I think we also have some bullish RSI divergence on this. We can see the kind of uptick of volume here at the lows. So again, this one, I think, somewhat similarly correlated to Snowflake and MongoDB with these kind of growth tech names. And I think that this one could be interesting for maybe a move back to 48 to the 50 level for a retest there. Now, Intel, again, it's not very closely related with Snowflake MongoDB, but it is an interesting chart nonetheless, and you can kind of see a similar pattern here, right? With these last couple tickers where they've been sold down over a period of time, a couple months, and then you have this period of consolidation, again, potentially accumulation. The fact that we are seeing some large ranked trades, number 6 and number 8 ranked trades here, I think, getting back above the 32 to 33 level, you could see some decent action on this up to 35, 36. And, Intel has not done well over the last year or so. And I think, a mean reversion play here might be in order. So then we have AGQ. So this is a 2x leveraged index on silver. And this one's interesting because, as we've talked about before, you can usually see where these ranked trades come in. And they're usually at or around pivot points, right? Local highs, local lows. So this one, it still moved a little bit lower, but here this is local high, local low before a little bit of relief, local low before quite a nice move. Another period of consolidation here, and we see a 39th ranked trade. So here I'd say, again, you're looking at 38 to 37 as a support level and potential period of accumulation. If this does start moving back up, I think, this could be, if it gets back above 40, maybe it can go back up and test the highs here at 44, 45. But this one's definitely interesting. Silver and gold, I think, have over the last year or two have done quite well. Obviously pulled back over the recent weeks, but definitely an interesting space to kind of keep an eye on. And then, a little bit more on the oil and energy front, we have Exxon Mobil, XOM, with another number 1 ranked trade. So that's 3 number 1 ranked trades on Friday in quite large names. So Apple, Nvidia, and Exxon Mobil. And so this one, again, I think that we can see this level where this number 1 came in also corresponds with the level where we saw number 8, so $111. So with both of these here, I think $111 is a really important point. Potentially, as long as this low holds at 110, which is, a round psychological level, as long as this holds, you could see a move back up to somewhere between 115 and 120. I think, this is definitely a name worth keeping an eye on, and I would set those alerts right around 111. And finally, Abercrombie & Fitch. So this name has been on an absolute tear over the last year, 18 months. It's actually, I believe, done better than Nvidia. They've really kind of turned the business around and seen a lot of really healthy demand, good growth. But with that said, potentially at a period or at a point where it's a little overextended. So came up just shy of 200. I think the high was right around 195, 198 or so. And then we can see a little bit of chop here. So looking back, we had a 9 and a 5 on the uptrend. These were probably buys. And then we have a 4 and 2, potentially sells, right? We have this period of consolidation, a little bit of a move lower to, I think, 107 as the low before this most recent move up. Now here, this is interesting. We obviously have a number 6 ranked trade, quite significant. We do have this trade that came in on Friday at the low. To me, this potentially looks like it could be setting up for a head and shoulders, another retest of the highs here. So really how I would play this is watch for a move back up and see how how price reacts around the 190 level. So get above 190 to 200, obviously moving to new highs and in price discovery. But if 190 holds to 195 holds as strong resistance, then we could potentially see a decent move back down to the 150 level. So this one I would definitely pay attention to as well. making sure if price gets below 174, 175, then we'd probably see a continuation down to that 150 level. But if it does move back up, you could take a short-term swing up to 190, 195, and or just wait for a rejection, look for volume to come in on a rejection, and then kind of step in. So one other thing, when I mentioned volume, you'll notice most of the times volume kind of corresponds with potentially a key level, right? So volume shows up on a breakout, and that's usually a good sign that it's a meaningful breakout and likely to continue. We can see here volume stepping in both of these occasions and continuing up. Then here we see a volume peak, which actually corresponds with the top here. So really, looking to see volume accompanying different events, right? We can see volume here, high volume, obviously on this breakout candle that also corresponded with being a top or a pivot. So looking for these large volume spikes and kind of looking at the price action can tell you a lot about the potential trends ahead. And you'll notice on the volume profile, we actually have quite a large gap here at 160. We don't have much support here, right? Which is price broke through and never came back and tested. So I do think sooner or later that this 150 level is likely to be retested. The timeline is what remains to be seen. So with that said, thanks for watching. Feel free to leave any comments if you have any questions, and have a good day.